This is the last video of November with my facial hair.
Are you shaving it?
I will shave it tonight, Daniel. Mama! Just drops right there.
Do it again. One more. How many more Galileos do you want? Roger, there's only room in this band for one hysterical queen.
Welcome to This Time with Daniel and Shahbaz. We just came back from watching Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yes.
As in the song, now a movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. The film about Freddie Mercury and his band, the Queen. Or Queen, sorry.
And the Queen.
And the Queen. Merry Christmas.
So this is a biopic on Freddie Mercury, and it goes through his life from the beginning of starting Queen, how they met, and into his later life, Live Aid, and then
AIDS.
And then AIDS.
Live Aid to AIDS.
Yeah.
Heavy.
Yeah. What do you think of this movie, Shay?
So, I told you before we got in, I knew Queen's hits.
Yeah.
I knew their songs.
I think everybody knows. Like,
everyone knows their...
Queen wrote anthems.
They really did, yeah.
Yeah, they wrote anthems.
They're big and everyone knows... Like, you'll have heard it somewhere.
Right.
I didn't know much about Freddie Mercury. I've seen his face and I know of Queen, but that was about it.
Right.
When I left this film, I left the exact same way I walked in.
That's a bummer. That's a bummer because I think the big thing with this movie, you want to. I feel like you've kind of gotten an inside look that fans never got to have before a movie like this would come out, and
I feel like the studio didn't even get that chance.
Yeah, and it's sad though because like when you look at a movie like Straight Outta Compton that had Dr. Dre and Ice Cube and everyone involved in it. Same with this movie. Brian May was involved.
Yeah.
Queen was involved in this movie, and this movie just felt like it was everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It felt like one really long montage. In the first 20 minutes of this film, or even less, 15 minutes, you go from Freddie Mercury to lead singer of Queen. And like they're famous already. And I was like, oh, well, there's no struggle there. There's no real rise to fame.
Yeah, and it's hard because, like, when you look at a band like Queen who spanned over
Decades.
a decade, 15 years, however many years they're together, it's going to be hard to tell a 2-hour movie and tell that story within that time, but things, like you were saying, nothing really felt like it was hard for the band at the beginning. And then once Freddie's personality kind of gets dialed up a lot, I'd say, and you really never feel his struggle too much. There are moments where you really get to see Rami Malek act, which is nice to see, but he never 100% sold me in the role of Freddie.
No, and there's maybe the third act of the film starts to dip a little bit too, so you're like, what's going on here? It just, and you could tell it's a tale of two directors because Bryan Singer had to leave. Right. Due to, I guess, allegations or whatever it was. And the film has had some rough patches. Right. But
even before it was being made with Sacha Baron Cohen being attached to it, and every time I see him, I still wish, like, that's who I wish got to play Freddie, because he looks so much, right? But yeah, it definitely felt like a tale of two movies. It felt like a TV movie, which is probably, like, no offense to TV movies, but
they have a look.
They have a look, and that's not something that you want to go to a theater to necessarily see. I think the performances were good in this movie. Yeah. The actor who played Brian May looks identical to him. It was kind of tripping me out. Rami did a decent enough job, and it's going to be one of those things that come Oscar time, I could see him being snubbed, in all honesty.
I could see him being snubbed
this movie isn't something that necessarily you need to go out and watch, but if you're a Queen fan, I think it's worth at least checking out if you're interested.
I think what upset me also at this film is that whenever there was a trial or tribulation coming up, it was solved so instantly, and there was no one was ever upset at Freddie Mercury. Like when they're like, "Oh, you want to break up Queen? Okay, fine." Like that's what it felt like.
Yeah, it would never, and then or they would make a joke and the band would be okay. And I get that's the whole thing. They kind of kept that theme of we're a family, we stick together, things like that. But yeah, after a while, like you're like, I don't always buy this as an excuse to get out of it, and I stick with me with this. This movie, I know I've had some really weird analogies, but you gotta stick with me.
The Sonic one was probably the weirdest.
The Sonic one, but it made sense a little bit. Godzilla.
And Freddie Mercury. Godzilla versus Freddie Mercury.
Coming out in 2020. Godzilla was a movie that came out in 2014. And it was one of those films that anytime you felt something momentous was about to happen.
The build-up,
it cuts to time later, to after it happened. And there were so many times in this movie that I felt like, I want to know what happened from that.
Yeah.
And the last, I guess, 20 minutes of this movie is the Live Aid performance. And it's really a long sequence, and I felt like every song that Queen played in that kind of felt like it was a repeat of, like, oh, Freddie's commanding the crowd, look how proud everyone of his family, and it kept kind of cutting away to those same reaction shots, where I feel like just one song would have been okay at Live Aid at the end to end the movie, and him going that, hey-oh, and the crowd responding. You know what I'm saying?
I
Stick with me
completely, yeah.
Yeah, but I just felt like the Live Aid sequence at the end was
a little bit long.
Was a bit
also,
long.
I don't know. Did his family not like him or like him? Like, they seemed totally cool. They're like,
I feel
like,
and that's the thing. I feel like they weren't given enough time in the movie either to really give us.
There was just no win. Like, we
Yeah.
got no win out of this film.
Yeah.
So I think we're safe to give our rating for this film.
Let's do it.
Skip it.
And that breaks my heart, man. Because
it does.
Obviously, this doesn't take anything away from Queen's discography of
No.
music.
Or Freddie Mercury.
And I left this movie, anytime a Queen song was being performed, I will say the performances in this movie were, in terms of like the actual musical performances, were awesome to see. And you're humming along, you're singing along, you're tapping your feet to the music. I wish there was something more to take out of it other than the music that we already love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was this time.
We'll see you next. That fly almost killed us.
That fly is fun, by the way. What do you guys talking about? What movie did you guys see?